Hey there, truth seekers. Welcome to episode 221 of the Bible Difficulties and Answers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Smith, where, for the record, if long hair were a sin, half the guys in my high school youth group in the 70s and 80s would definitely be in trouble. Today's question. In Numbers 6:5, God tells certain people not to cut their hair as an act of holiness. Then in 1 Corinthians 11:14, Paul says it's disgraceful for a man to have long hair. So which is it? Did God change his mind about barbers? Was Paul having a bad hair day? Or, and this is usually the case, are we trying to make two passages answer a question they were never written to answer? Stay with me, because once you see the context, this one goes from Bible contradiction to, actually, that fits perfectly. But first, why would God require long hair in one setting and then have Paul say it's dishonorable in another? And how does Paul himself grow his hair out for a vow in Acts 18:18 if long hair is inherently wrong? Seriously, the verse reads like this. In Caesarea, Paul shaved his head, for he had taken a vow. That's not a problem, that's a clue. And this is how the difficulty is usually framed. Norman Geisler and Thomas Howe in the Big Book of Bible Difficulties lay it out like this. Paul says long hair on a man is against nature. The Nazarite vow requires long hair. Contradiction? Their answer, no, because the normal pattern was for men and women to remain visibly distinct. But the Nazarite vow was a rare sacred exception, and exceptions don't break rules, they highlight them. Think of it like this. Many people don't wear wedding rings, but when you see one, it means something very specific. The ring doesn't redefine human hands, it signals a covenant. That's the Nazarite hair. It's not fashion, it's a walking sermon. And as Geisler and Howe point out, no one trying to blur gender distinctions would take on a costly vow of self-denial to advertise their holiness. That would be the worst rebellion strategy in human history. So let's look at Numbers 6:5 and what's actually happening. It reads like this. They must never cut their hair throughout the time of their vow, for they are holy and set apart to the Lord. Okay, this is voluntary, temporary, highly visible, deeply symbolic. Not everyday Israelite life. GotQuestions.org emphasizes that this vow was a free will act of total separation to God. OneandAll.Church brings out the community aspect. The long hair told everyone, don't hand this person a cup of wine. Don't invite them to that funeral. This life is under special dedication right now. Okay, it built in accountability. In other words, the hair wasn't about the person, it was about the Lord. And it was supposed to look unusual. Samson, Samuel, possibly John the Baptist. These aren't normal cases. They stand out. And that's the whole point. If everybody had long hair, the vow wouldn't mean anything. It would be like wearing a referee jersey on the court. If everybody's a referee, no one knows who's calling the fouls. Okay, now let's step into Corinth. It's a different time, different covenant, different culture. Paul says this in 1 Corinthians 11:14. Isn't it obvious that it's disgraceful for a man to have long hair? Okay, in Corinth, appearance communicated social meaning. Theology in the Raw explains that in the Greco-Roman world, long hair on men was commonly associated with effeminacy, though there were well-known exceptions like philosophers and certain religious figures. And that matters because Paul is talking about order in worship, honor, clear distinctions, not creating a universal, eternal hairstyle chart for Christian men. And here's where it gets really interesting. UnraveledFaith.ca points out that Paul himself had taken a vow in Acts 18:18 in Corinth, which required growing his hair out. So Paul wrote 1 Corinthians and lived Acts 18. Same city, same man, which means he did not believe long hair was inherently sinful. Context determined meaning. Kyperian.com pushes us even deeper, and you can find the link in the show notes. Their argument is that Paul's concern is not hair length itself, but what hair communicated in that culture about headship and honor. Whether you land fully there or not, it reinforces the central point. Biblical symbols are not free-floating. They live inside real cultures. Here's an analogy that makes this click. A police officer in uniform at a crime scene means authority. A police officer in uniform at his own wedding would be odd. The same uniform, different setting, different meaning. There's no contradiction, just context. That's number 6 and 1 Corinthians 11. So, why there's no contradiction? It's a different purpose, different scope, different covenant, different cultural message. Number 6 equals a visible act of consecration for a few. 1 Corinthians 11 equals normal practice for the many. And remember, even in the Old Testament, the Nazarite hair only meant something because it was not normal. Paul is affirming the same underlying principle. Honor God's design in how you present yourself. And Paul's own hair settles the debate. Acts 18:18, he grows it. He cuts it. So in Paul's theology, long hair for consecration equals good. Long hair as everyday male presentation in Corinthian worship equals dishonorable. That's not inconsistency, that's precision. So here's your ready-to-go answer. Numbers 6 describes a temporary vow of special dedication. 1 Corinthians 11 describes what was culturally honorable for men in normal church life. Samson honored God with long hair. Paul honored God with long hair during a vow. The Corinthians were to avoid long hair when it sent the wrong message. No contradiction, just context. As we wrap up, I think this is the bigger takeaway. The Bible doesn't flatten everything into one timeless cultural expression. God meets real people in real settings and calls them to holiness there, which means faithfulness isn't about copying hairstyles from another covenant. It's about living devotion in your own. The Nazarites said, "My strength belongs to the Lord." Paul said, "Your worship should reflect God's order." Same goal, different symbol, perfect harmony. If this kind of careful, context-driven Bible study is sharpening your faith, you can support the show at buymeacoffee.com/Lance Smith. Always appreciated, but it's never expected. Next Friday, we're going to look at Numbers 10:31. Moses asks Hobab to guide Israel even though God is already leading. So if God has a pillar of cloud and fire, why ask for directions? All right, guys, that's going to be a message in itself. You can find every episode at BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers.podbean.com. Email me at BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers@gmail.com or join the discussion on Facebook. Thanks for listening, thanks for studying, and thanks for refusing to settle for surface-level answers. I'm Lance Smith, wishing you good health, good study, and God's richest blessings. And remember, turns out Paul wasn't having a bad hair day. We were having a bad context day. And not every long-haired man in the Bible is in rebellion. Some of them are in revival. So long, everybody.